Neil, as he was talking about the fact that he was not a star student when he was going to school, I have a confession to make, because you're here to celebrate great work and success for students. And I just wanted to tell you a little personal story about myself on that, in that regard, and that I was a pretty mediocre student when I went to school. And I just, I was checked out, I was daydreaming or something when learning was supposed to be going on. And I really doubt that, many of my teachers even remember who Sue Castillo was, when I was a kid in school. And I want to tell you just a little bit about how my life turned around, because it really is that spirit that these educators have, that touching the lives of people and helping them get on a course of success, is about. Well, after I graduated from high school, I didn't really believe that college was for me. My mother had dropped out of school when she was in the 8th grade. And my parents made sure that I got a high school education, but in my household we didn't sit around and have conversations about what college or university I was going to be going off to. And no one in my high school ever talked to me about the possibility of college. I did enroll in a junior college for a little bit, dropped out, just was kind of floated around like a lot of people do in their late teens and early 20s. And a few years later, I found myself here in Oregon, working in the secretarial pool at Oregon State University. I was what you call a late bloomer. My life took a sharp turn when I got assigned to work as a secretary to an amazing woman at Oregon State. Her name was Pearl Spears Gray, and she was in administration, and she was just this amazing woman. She was a dynamic, outspoken African-American woman. She was fearless, and she was a tireless advocate for justice and moved people and institutions with her courage and intelligence. And I was pretty much in awe of her every day. She was so amazing. Well, Pearl saw something in me that most of my teachers probably missed, and she saw potential. And she became my mentor, and she encouraged me to go to college and to earn my degree, helped me realize that I could do it. And during a time in my life when I didn't know what I wanted to be or do, Pearl believed in me, and at that point, that was all that I needed. And as a student at Oregon State, everything changed. I was motivated to hit the books and to really get into learning. I finally got it. I got the connection between education and how it can transform your life, and really connected me with seeing what happened with my own mother's limitations, because she didn't have her education. So I earned my degree and started my journalism career as a news reporter, and sometimes anchoring for, as you know, KVAL-TV. Some of you remember I used to be television reporter, and many years later I was approached and asked to think about running for the Oregon legislature. And although I had spent a lot of my reporting time covering the legislature, covering politics and education and government issues, I didn't really, running for public office was not something that I had thought about. But then I did give it some thought, and I decided to go for it. Well, I can remember the day that I was writing my first political speech, and I was sitting in front of my computer, and I needed to tell people about where I was on major issues and a little bit about my background and about me, because as a reporter, you just don't tell people those things usually. So there I was in front of my computer writing this for my first speech, and I just became overcome with emotion. I was just sobbing in front of my computer. I thought, what is this? And I got up and I walked around my house, and I was just like, it really surprised me. I had looked over what I had written, and I had wrote about, my grandparents coming to this country from Mexico, and my parents working hard, and my mother having an 8th grade education, and that her dream was for her children to go on and make sure that we graduated from high school, and really wanting to create success for their families. And I realized at that moment that what it was I was getting to realize that American dream that my grandparents had come here to work for and dreamed for, and now I was getting to live it and go after a position in the Oregon legislature to try to become a state senator and to try to work on education and other issues that I really cared about. And that moment when I made that connection about realizing it was so powerful. It was so profound. I will never forget it. And it's really what drives me today as I do public service work, is I want everybody to have an opportunity to live the dream. And it starts at the heart of being able to do that is in education. If we don't have an education, it is much harder to ever attain that dream that we know our country is all about. So that connection is just so strong, and it's so personal for me. And I just appreciate what our teachers, our educators, our principals and superintendents and school board members do every single day to keep those doors of opportunity open for our children and to keep this the great country that it is. So I guess, I wanted to share that with you because when someone sets a high expectation for you and helps you see that you can get there, that is so amazing. And that's what you do. You educators who are being honored here today, that's what you do every day. You set those high expectations for your students, and you work hard every day to help them get there and help them realize the dream. And it is so important that people know that and that we tell your story every chance that we get. Well, I also wanted to be here to share that and to sing your praises about what you do, and then just to give you a little update about how I think we're doing today as we're winding down this legislative session. At long last, we've got a budget for our schools that recognizes the amazing work of educators across the state, a budget that begins to fill in the gaping holes left by years of cuts, and a budget that starts to reinvest in the future of our state. Because for years we've been like fighters on the ropes, fending off wrong-headed ballot measures or ducking away from bad legislation or doing some fancy footwork to keep our schools going in the face of cuts and impossible choices. Our districts have had very difficult choices over these last several years, and now we're getting to turn that around.